My name is Sloane Reynoldss, 32 years old. The alert comes at 9:14 a.m., cross-fading the hum of fluorescent lights and the clatter of staplers into a single, thin tone in my head. Credit monitoring, new inquiry. First Atlantic Trust. A small thing on a small screen. My pulse does not change. In the office of the Comptroller of the Currency, my cubicle looks the way people like my sister imagine my life: tidy, beige, forgettable. A desktop calendar turned to April, a gel pen aligned to the edge of a legal pad. Family photos. None. That omission is neither accidental nor unnoticed. I tap the notification. First Atlantic Trust means nothing to me personally. Professionally, it means templates, signatures, thresholds. The stillness that settles is not confusion, it is recognition. Easter brunch unspools in my mind with the precision of a ledger. 2 weeks ago, my parents' Arlington Colonial, a dining room arranged like a stage set, good china, ironed linen, crystal, that rings without being asked. Caroline arrives late and loud, handbag slung like a medal, Range Rover glinting through the bay window. She kisses Mom's cheek, studiously forgets mine, and drops the line she's been rehearsing since the car. The Hamilton portfolio doubled this quarter. We're restructuring the tech division. Dad beams. Mom squeezes her hand. Then Caroline's eyes find me, the way they always do when she needs a foil. Still processing forms for the Treasury, Annie? You should live a little. She says Annie like a paper cut, then laughs, a bright, brittle sound that makes people mistake cruelty for confidence. I remember the handbag. I remember the Range Rover. I remember thinking her spending curve had sprinted ahead of any salary line item I could imagine. I remember pinning that thought to the bulletin board behind my eyes and waiting. Now the ping lands and the board lights up. I stand, walk past gray cubicles and half-eaten granola bars to a soundproof room with a glass pane and a view of the parking garage. The door whispers shut. I dial. She answers on the fourth ring. Sloane, this is a surprise. I'm about to head into a meeting. Quick question, I say, soft, the voice they call easy to ignore. I got a weird alert. Did you use my details for anything by mistake? She laughs like I've complimented her. You're paranoid. God, your job. It's making you suspicious of everyone. Must be boring. So that's a no? Of course it's a no. Her tone sharpens. Gotta run. Big meeting. The line dies. The mask does too. Mine, not hers. The one labeled quiet one, with the safe little job, slides off with a click. In its place comes the person my colleagues at the OCC know without ever seeing her at a family table. Investigator Reynoldss. Back at my desk, I wake my secure terminal, the one that sits like a locked room inside a locked room. My login flows under my fingers, muscle memory and map key. New internal case file template. Cursor blinks at subject. A pause, just long enough to feel like a choice. I type Reynoldss, Sloane, off-record preliminary, date, time, the alert metadata, First Atlantic Trust, Easter brunch, Caroline's remarks, Range Rover, the bag, the habit of selecting the shiniest object in the room and assuming it will be hers. I do not type hurt, I do not type sister. My job is to remove oxygen from sentiment until only facts remain. Outside my window, the afternoon fades. People in shirt sleeves collect their cardigans and buy coffees they'll forget on counters. I keep typing. The document grows like a spine. When I reach the end, I save and close. The file lives behind a wall no family can scale. I do not go home yet. I open a blank note and title it in all caps. The way I name things I refuse to lose. Proof. The average person might call a bank now, dispute an inquiry, slam a door. Caroline knows that average person. She has rehearsed speeches for her. She will say, "You misunderstood, and why are you so dramatic?" And it's just family. She will appeal to our parents. They will tell me she is ambitious. They will call my silence loyalty while mistaking it for consent. I close my eyes. I can hear it already. The choreography of their certainty. I do not call the bank. The next morning, I arrive early. The terminal glows blue and expectant. With 3 systems and 2 clearances, I pull my full credit file. The inquiry sits at the top like a door left ajar. Below it, worse, a new trade line. $90,000, personal loan. First Atlantic Trust, Approved 3 days ago. My heart blips, then training pulls the EKG flat again. I query the application. On screen, a form blooms to life. My name, my social, my flawless score. I zoom the signature box until the pixels blur. The attempt at my name leans the wrong way. The loops are vanity, where mine are efficiency. It's not even a decent forgery. The stated income makes me laugh once, silently. A 6-figure fiction my GS grade would envy. Screenshot. Timestamp. Secure server. Repeat until the trail looks like a roadmap anyone could follow. I pull the disbursement date, compare it against Instagram. Caroline has never met a room she didn't shoot from 3 angles. There. Just picked up the keys. Penthouse life. Blessed. Posted 1 day after the funds would have cleared. Property records confirm. Down payment, $85,000. Public deed filed 3 days ago. The remaining $5,000 covers movers, champagne, and the price of believing no one will ever say no to you. The implications drop into place, each with the weight of a statute. This isn't just debt, it's fraud. If it sits under my name, it's not just my credit risk, it's my clearance. My job is a bridge built on no vulnerabilities. This is a crack across the span. My hand lifts to my phone, then stops in the air. The impulse to fix, to clean, to be good at paperwork is exactly what she expects. The moment I dispute, she gets an alert. Evidence begins to sweat and disappear. She will call mom and dad. They will call me. I will be the hysterical little sister again, neatly filed under overreacts. I lower the phone. New folder, new screenshots, loan app, signature Zoom, credit report, deed, Instagram. All dates and times logged. The way I breathe, evenly. I sit back. The fluorescent lights vibrate. On the far side of the floor, someone laughs about a show I haven't watched. The world remains irritatingly normal, while mine tilts 6 degrees to the left. Caroline has always been the headline, the curated feed. Piano recitals, valedictorian, tech without details. Mom and dad rehearse their pride. So often, their mouths still shape it when she enters a room. They made her certain no rule would apply to her. Certain that quiet meant weak. Certain I would fold. Sometimes armor looks like being underestimated. 3 months, I decide. Payments will post just at minimum, just in time. She will stay beneath every radar. I will collect, build, wait. The long game has more teeth than the sprint. My desktop phone rings at 4:07 p.m. Reynolds, I answer. Anna, she never gets my name right on the first try. Mom's voice is sugar brisk. Family dinner Friday. Caroline has exciting news. Of course she does. Audiences were invented so Caroline would never learn to tell truth from applause. I'll be there, I say. After I hang up, I test the recorder app. Red dot, time code, crisp. Virginia is a one-party consent state. The statute fits in my mind beside the signature slant, the income fiction, the dollar thresholds under which certain verifications never trigger. I close the note titled, Proof. The afternoon becomes evening without announcing it. I walk to the garage, the smell of oil and concrete settling over me like a familiar coat. My Subaru starts on the first turn. The engine hums steady. On the way home, the sky over the Beltway bruises purple. Taillights bloom and recede. I keep both hands on the wheel and think, without heat, without hurry. The quiet one, with the safe little government job, has declared war. She just doesn't know it yet. At 7:31 a.m., the building is a cathedral of humming fluorescents and rolling chairs. I badge in, nod to security, and let the elevator doors close on the smell of burnt coffee and lobby floor polish. By the time I sit, the blue glow from my secure terminal feels like a coastline I've mapped 1,000 times. I don't start with the inquiry. I go straight for the spine. 3 systems, 2 clearances, 1 request for my full file that would turn any civilian credit report into a page-turner. There it is, the inquiry perched on top like a warning flare, and underneath, the thing a flare tries to save you from. A new trade line in sharp serif font, $90,000. Personal loan. First Atlantic Trust. Opened 3 days ago. For a heartbeat, my chest forgets the rhythm it's kept since I was 12. Then training slides the metronome back into place. Query. The The form populates, my name spelled correctly, my social crisp, my score the kind of perfect that only happens when you've made a hobby out of paying early. In the signature box, a stranger wearing my hand. I zoom until the pixels blur. My S leans right. This one leans left, as if it's afraid of the rest of the word. The loops are theatrical, where mine are functional, a calligrapher's vanity pretending to be my impatience. Screenshot, timestamp, SHA-256 hash, secure server, repeat. I pull the stated income. 6 figures padded like a couch. My GS grade would laugh if it were allowed to. Screenshot. Disbursement schedule. Funds cleared 48 hours after approval. Transfer map. ACH out to a title company I've seen before, nested in a skyline of LLCs designed to look taller than they are. On my personal phone, I open Instagram. Caroline never met a reflective surface she didn't turn into confetti. There, her face captured in a wall of glass, city view thrown like bait over her shoulder. Just picked up the keys. Penthouse life. Blessed. Posted exactly 1 day after the money left First Atlantic. Public records confirm what the caption brags. Deed recorded. Unit number. Purchase price. Down payment. $85,000. The remaining $5,000 roam free enough to find movers, champagne, and whatever else you buy when you think rules are a suggestion. I could call the bank. The part of me that likes clean ledgers and tidy endings wants to, but if I dispute it now, the system pings her. She revises a story. Evidence sweats and goes thin. She calls our parents. They call me. I am cast again as the anxious little sister who misunderstood a favor. I tuck my phone away and lean into the quiet. A case file becomes a body when you build it right. The screenshots are bones. The hashes are tendons. The metadata, date, time, IP, become the nerve map. I title the folder with something long and ugly a defense attorney won't enjoy reading. Reynoldss, Sloane, I'd, theft, FA, trust, V1. I feed it the images, the report, the deed, the Instagram post, the ACH path. The folder takes them, arranges them the way a careful person sets a table for guests they don't particularly like. Across the aisle, Tim laughs at some link about a popular show where billionaires say terrible things in rooms with expensive curtains. My screen shows me a cheaper version of that plot. Caroline, with no curtains left to hide behind, grabbing what isn't hers because no one ever told her no meant no. I know this pattern. Multiple loans, just under advanced underwriting thresholds. A touch under $50,000 sidesteps deeper verification at many places. But Caroline likes obvious. She took a single slap of $90,000 out of a bank that sells discretion along with its trust accounts. The sloppiness is a mercy. A second window brings up her spending. Public, performative, persistent. March, the handbag. April, the Range Rover. Weeks of dinners and points of sale by candlelight, a chorus line of charges choreographed to the theme song of Somebody Else Will Pay for This. The implications pool. It isn't just debt, it's a threat vector. A clearance is the opposite of a secret. It's a ledger that must always balance. One unexplained line item, and the bridge I built between my life and my work groans. I spend lunch in the law library database, not because I need the law, but because I like to braid it into my patients. 18 USC, Sefer 128, ID theft, Ser 1343, wire fraud. The case notes mention sentences running consecutively, a phrase I fold and put in my pocket. The afternoon arrives disguised as hunger. I ignore it. Build, date, name, place. When the evidence chain clicks together in my head like a well-made clasp, I let my hands leave the keyboard. Then I do the hardest thing I know how to do, nothing. 3 months become a habit. The loan in my name gets its minimum payment at 11:57 p.m. on due day, like a teenager making curfew without caring why curfews exist. My monitoring alerts arrive right on schedule. I open each one, add the note, adjust the chain. Caroline's Instagram becomes a glossy calendar. New watch, rooftop brunch, the plant that lives in every penthouse because it photographs well. Patience is a weapon if you keep it sharp. On a Tuesday, my desk phone rings. My mother, warmed to room temperature by a glass of Chardonnay and the thrill of hosting. Family dinner this Friday, she says. Caroline has exciting news. Of course she does. Caroline's news arrives with the same inevitability as a tax bill. Flashy, late, and dressed in numbers she doesn't understand. I'll be there, I say. Friday. I park down the block from the house I used to call mine, the one that taught me the choreography of being overlooked. My Subaru hums itself into silence. Through the bay window, the Range Rover lounges in the driveway like a guest who never leaves. Dad's sedan looks smaller beside it, a metaphor that doesn't need a workshop. On the passenger seat sits a recorder that would be more comfortable as a compliance tool than a weapon. I test it. Red dot glows and keeps its own counsel. Virginia is a one-party consent state. A sentence I tried out loud, once in my kitchen, to an audience of one mug and a plant that doesn't mind adversarial monotone. I tuck the device into my jacket pocket, the mic hole an accidental buttonhole. My other hand holds a bottle of wine we will not open. I ring the bell. Annie, Mom says, pulling me into a scented embrace. Her hair has been fussed into wealth. You made it. The dining room is a showroom pretending to be a home. China breathes on the table. Napkins have corners sharp enough to injure. Dad stands by the fireplace with a scotch he didn't pour himself. Caroline leans against the bay window, glass already half empty, smile already half cruel. Look who finally made it, she says. Did the government let you out early? Traffic on the bridge, I reply. Setting my phone face down near my water glass, pressing my thumb once on the screen to wake the app no one can see. The red dot winks like a complicity I can live with. Dinner is the script I could recite back to them. Dad says flexibility, where he means cheating. Mom asks if I've considered something with more potential than the OCC. Caroline performs being interesting. I answer what I have to, let silence sit where it impedes them. By dessert, her ring finds crystal. Tap, tap. The room silences because it's trained to. I actually have something to share, she announces, cheeks grieving the wine. Her eyes settle on mine the way a cat settles on the one person in the room with allergies. Funny story. She smiles a practiced smile and wields the sentence like a knife she thinks is a spoon. But that's a part I already know, and I am not at the part where I speak. I lift my water. The recorder hums. The statute about consent fits beside my heartbeat. The room smells like chocolate and the end of pretending. Caroline taps her glass again, smiling that glassy smile that always means she's about to make something about herself. The candlelight glints off her earrings. She's wearing victory like perfume. Funny story, she says, her voice honeyed, rehearsed. I used Sloane's credit to get a personal loan. For a heartbeat, no one moves. The air hums with that collective confused pause before a room decides whether to laugh. My father freezes, fork mid-air. My mother blinks twice, the polite smile of a hostess who thinks she misheard. Caroline swirls her wine. Relax, she adds, smirking. It's family. I take a slow sip of water. My pulse doesn't change. That's bank fraud, I say evenly. She laughs, bright and brittle. Oh, stop being so dramatic. It's just paperwork. I needed better credit. You have it. We're sisters. What's yours is mine, right? My father clears his throat. Caroline. She waves him off. Please, I'm paying it off. It's not a big deal. Sloane's such a stickler for rules. She'll probably be thrilled to know her perfect record is finally helping someone else. Fraudulently using someone's identity to obtain a loan, I continue, still calm, is a federal offense. Up to 30 years in prison. $1 million fine. Wire fraud if interstate funds were transferred. Caroline's grin falters for half a breath. Then she leans forward. You wouldn't, she says softly. Wouldn't what? Report me. You wouldn't do that to your own sister. My mother tries to laugh, voice brittle as bone china. Girls, please, let's not be ridiculous. It's just ambitious, my father interjects, half-heartedly, like an old habit. Caroline's always been ambitious. Ambitious, I repeat. That's what we're calling felonies now? Caroline's eyes glitter. You're still jealous, aren't you? She hisses. You've always wanted to be me, but you don't have the guts. You just sit there doing paperwork and pretending it's power. I set my glass down with care. Power, I say softly, is knowing exactly what to do next. For a moment, she stares at me, trying to read something in my face. Then she smirks again, mistaking composure for surrender. Well, whatever, she says. Don't worry, Daddy. Annie won't do anything. She never does. I smile faintly. You're right about one thing. I don't react. I document. Her brow furrows, but I've already stood. Thank you for dinner, I say to my mother. The chocolate was good. Sloane, wait, Mom says quickly. At least have coffee. Can't. Early morning, I say. Big audit. My phone, face down beside my glass, is still recording. I tap it once to stop the file. The red light winks off. The confession is clear, her voice unmistakable, every word wrapped in her own arrogance. Outside, the night air is cold enough to sting. The suburban street smells faintly of cedar mulch and someone's distant barbecue. I walk to my Subaru, unlock the door, and sit in the dark for a moment, listening to the ticking of my cooling engine. The recorder app shows a perfect waveform. Her laughter, her confession, my calm replies. No noise interference, no gaps. I upload it to my encrypted cloud before I even start the car. The drive to the OCC field office takes 40 minutes. I don't turn on the radio. My mind catalogs next steps the way other people recite prayers. Conflict disclosure, evidence preservation, interagency protocol. By the time I swipe my badge through the after-hours entrance, the building is nearly empty. Only the security guard looks up. He nods once. He's used to seeing me here late. In my office, the fluorescent lights hum back to life. I pull the file I've been building for months. Every screenshot, every forged document, every time-stamped Instagram post. The pieces fit too perfectly. I fill out a new form. Conflict of Interest Declaration. Name of related party, Sloane Reynoldss. Nature of conflict, immediate family member. Potential subject in ongoing financial fraud case. The box beneath reads, attach all relevant evidence and transfer chain of custody. I attach the recordings, the credit reports, the forged application, the penthouse deed. Each file labeled, dated, numbered. My fingers move fast but precise, muscle memory from years of compliance reviews where one misplaced comma can undo justice. The final attachment is the audio file. I listen to the first 5 seconds to check clarity. Caroline's voice fills the small office. Funny story, I used Sloane's credit to get a personal loan. Perfect. I route the full packet to the internal task force's secure network. The cursor hovers over submit. For a long moment, I just watch it blink. One click means escalation. FBI jurisdiction, Treasury oversight, a process that moves at the pace of law, not emotion. Once it's submitted, it leaves my hands. I click. The file vanishes from my queue. I close my laptop and lean back in the chair. The air conditioning hums, sterile and steady. I've done this 100 times for strangers, faceless names in cases that never reach Thanksgiving tables. But this is different. At 7:42 a.m. Monday, Deputy Director Martha Green calls me into her office. Her voice is the kind that could command a battalion or raise a child, depending on the day. Her desk is immaculate, the kind of order that means danger. The binder on it has my handwriting in the corner. Sit, she says. I do. I've reviewed your submission. She adjusts her glasses, scanning the binder's first page. Clean chain of custody, precise documentation, excellent work. Thank you, ma'am. She nods. You're recused from the case effective immediately. It's been transferred to the Joint Task Force. My chest doesn't move for a second, then I exhale slowly. Understood. Her tone softens by a hair. You handled this by the book. I know it's family. Yes, ma'am. She studies me for a long moment. For what it's worth, Reynolds, discipline like this doesn't come from nowhere. Someone underestimated you for a very long time. I almost smile. Yes, ma'am, I say again. When I leave her office, the hallway feels longer than usual, like the distance between who I was and who I just became. By noon, my inbox is full of routine compliance requests. Life keeps its usual rhythm. My fingers type, my tone stays polite, my coffee cools before I remember to drink it. At 6:03 p.m., I shut down my computer, lock my desk, and walk out into the fading light. Somewhere across the city, Caroline is pouring a drink, still believing she won the argument. What she doesn't know is that the next time she pours one, she'll do it in a glass half as expensive, in a room twice as empty. Because the system she never respected is already moving. Quiet, methodical, unstoppable. I drive home in silence. The city glows behind me like a network diagram, every street a connection, every light a node. Caroline will never understand how power really works. It doesn't shout. It documents. The news doesn't come to me directly. It never does. It arrives the way consequence always does, secondhand, procedural, and right on time. At 9:07 a.m., my phone buzzes with a one-line text from Deputy Director Green. Execution in progress. You'll stay out of it. No emojis, no punctuation beyond the period. A perfect sentence for an imperfect day. I stare at the message for a moment, then slide the phone face down on my desk. Around me, the office hums with the sound of paper and policy. Printers churning, phones ringing, analysts debating decimal points. The rhythm of people who don't know the world is shifting quietly across town. Across town, federal agents are walking into my sister's penthouse. They will knock exactly 3 times. Polite, firm, final. She'll open the door mid-laugh, hair still damp from the shower, half-dressed for another day of pretending. They'll identify themselves, badges raised. She'll freeze for 2 seconds before the performance starts. There's been a mistake. You can't just come in here. Then they will. Green is there to supervise. I can picture it easily. Her silver hair, the binder under her arm, her voice measured as she instructs the agents to seize devices, hard drives, documents. Someone will photograph every drawer before opening it. Someone else will catalog every handbag, every bracelet, every line of credit disguised as leather and gold. They'll find 7 names, not just mine, friends, former colleagues, and 2 more that stop them cold. Richard and Elaine Reynoldss, my parents. Caroline never could resist a shortcut, even through her own blood. At 10:24, I'm reviewing a set of suspicious activity reports when my phone rings again. Unknown number. Arlington area code. I don't answer. It rings again. Then again. By the 3rd time, my training gives way to instinct. I pick up. Anna, my father's voice, tight, urgent. They arrested your sister. I keep my tone professional. Yes, I'm aware. They say his breath hitches. They say she used our names. The FBI came to the house this morning. They took her computers. They took her car. You work for the government, for God's sake. You have to stop this. I can't, I say simply. You won't, he snaps. Both, I correct. Mom's voice cuts in, distant and trembling. They're saying terrible things, Sloane. Fraud, identity theft. Please, tell them it's a mistake. Tell them she didn't mean... She did, I interrupt, and it wasn't a mistake. Dad exhales sharply, fury grinding into disbelief. You'd really do this to your own sister? She did it to us first, I say. I just did my job. The silence that follows is deep and uneven, the kind that only happens when 2 worlds stop recognizing each other. Finally, Dad mutters, after all we've done for you. There's nothing left to say after that. I hang up. That afternoon, Deputy Director Green briefs the task force in the field. The transcript lands in my inbox by evening, a habit of transparency she's cultivated with me since the recusal. Subject, Reynolds Caroline. Search summary. Findings, 7 fraudulent identities. Total exposure, $410,000. Structured loan pattern under underwriting thresholds. Evidence of attempted offshore transfer. One line makes me stop breathing for a second. Parents identified as secondary victims. Losses totaling $58,000 combined. So that's why they sounded scared. For once, it isn't about shame, it's about liability. Green's field notes end with a single observation. Every asset connected to criminal proceeds. Complete forfeiture recommended. Which means the Range Rover, the condo, the jewelry, all of it will be gone. 2 days later, there's a knock on my own door. I already know who it is before I check the peephole. Dad stands there, shoulders hunched, face flushed. Mom behind him, mascara streaked. The brittle dignity of a woman trying to hold her world together with trembling hands. Can we come in? Dad asks. It isn't really a question. I step aside. They sit at the kitchen table where I read audit reports and eat takeout. The contrast between them and my small, ordinary apartment feels obscene. No crystal, no chandeliers, just walls that don't lie. Dad doesn't waste time. You have to fix this. I can't. You will. You work for the same people who did this. I don't do cover-ups, Dad. I do compliance. He slams his hand on the table. She's your sister. I look at him evenly. She's a criminal. Mom flinches at the word, as if naming it makes it real. Sloane, please, she's family. So am I say quietly. You just never treated me like it. That lands harder than I expected. For a moment, neither of them speaks. Dad leans back, eyes narrowing. You always envied her, he says. All this time, waiting for her to fall. I shake my head. I didn't wait for her to fall. I waited for the truth to catch up. They stand a few minutes later, their anger collapsing into something smaller, sadder. When they leave, Mom turns back in the doorway. "She'll never survive prison," she whispers. I don't answer. At the OCC the following week, I keep my eyes on spreadsheets while the world above them changes shape. The Interagency Task Force files the indictment. The U.S. Attorney's Office drafts the charges: bank fraud, wire fraud, aggravated identity theft. I sign the final verification on a separate case, one that doesn't share my name, and file it without emotion. At night, I check the news out of habit. One headline finally breaks through the noise. Federal agents arrest local woman in multi-state loan scheme. Sources confirm the suspect used family identities to obtain over $400,000 in fraudulent loans. There's a photo. Caroline in a navy pantsuit, her hair pulled back, her eyes wide with disbelief. The caption lists the condo address I already know by heart. I close the browser. The silence in my apartment feels heavy but earned. The next morning, a text buzzes through from a blocked number. "You'll ruin this family. Mom and Dad are devastated. You're a vindictive buff." Another follows seconds later. "What did you do? The FBI just called me. Call me now." I take screenshots of both and forward them to the task force's secure inbox. Chain of evidence updated. Then I delete the thread. Outside my window, the city hums. Indifferent. Efficient. Somewhere, an agent is writing her Miranda rights into a report. Somewhere else, a judge is reading the affidavit I built. The system moves slowly, but it never stops. And for the first time in my life, I understand that justice doesn't need applause. It just needs follow-through. I turn off my phone and get ready for work. The badge around my neck gleams in the morning light, a quiet reminder that some jobs don't end when you clock out. 6 weeks later, I find myself sitting in a federal courtroom. The walls are paneled in oak, the air stale with old stories. Everything here is designed to remind people that justice is slow, deliberate, and inescapable. Caroline sits at the defense table in a navy pantsuit that looks borrowed. Her hair, once glossy and theatrical, is scraped into a bun that pulls her features too tight. Without the armor of wealth, she looks smaller, like a painting that never belonged in its frame. The judge, a woman with silver-streaked hair and a voice that cuts through whispers, calls the room to order. United States versus Caroline Reynoldss, 15 counts of bank fraud, wire fraud, and aggravated identity theft. I'm 3 rows back. I don't need to be here, but I am. You don't watch storms from inside your own house. You go to the window. The prosecutor begins, walking the jury through the evidence like a surgeon tracing scars. Loan documents, forged signatures, social media timelines that align perfectly with wire transfers, the penthouse deed purchased with fraudulent funds, then the audio. "Funny story," Caroline's voice echoes through the courtroom speakers, bright, confident, soaked in wine. "I used Sloane's credit to get a personal loan." I glance at the jurors. A few exchange looks. One woman's eyebrows rise slightly, the universal reaction to someone confessing while laughing. The prosecutor lets the silence stretch. "Ladies and gentlemen," she says softly, "intent doesn't always whisper. Sometimes it brags." I almost smile. When the defense takes its turn, they try every angle. Miscommunication, misunderstanding, sibling rivalry. Her attorney's voice drips with sympathy. "My client was under pressure, Your Honor. Family tensions. A desire to help her sister's credit score, not harm it." I think of my $90,000 loan. The way she smiled when she said, "You wouldn't." The prosecutor dismantles it in 3 minutes flat. "A loan doesn't help someone's credit when they don't know it exists," she says. When my name is called, I walk to the stand, swear the oath, and sit under the weight of 12 strangers' eyes. The microphone hums softly. "State your occupation," the prosecutor says. "Senior investigator, Office of the Comptroller of the Currency." "And what do you do there?" "I investigate financial fraud," I answer, "primarily identity theft and bank manipulation." A few jurors glance at Caroline. I see the realization flicker across their faces. The irony is too sharp to miss. "Were you aware that a loan had been taken out in your name?" "Yes, I received a credit alert." "What did you do then?" "I verified the data, preserved the evidence, and followed protocol." "And when did you realize the suspect was your sister?" "The moment I saw her signature," I say. "It wasn't even close." There's a small murmur in the gallery. I ignore it. The defense declines to cross-examine. There's nothing to cross. By the time closing arguments end, the case feels like a machine winding down. The jury files out at 3:47 p.m. They're back at 7:12. The foreperson stands. On all 15 counts, she says, we find the defendant guilty. The words land without drama, just sound, then silence. But for me, it's seismic. Caroline's shoulders sag. Her mouth trembles as if forming the word how. At sentencing 2 weeks later, she wears the same suit. Her lawyer pleads for leniency, citing emotional stress and family dynamics. The prosecutor doesn't bother hiding her disbelief. When the judge speaks, her tone is even, mercilessly calm. Ms. Reynolds, you exploited family trust for personal gain. You falsified records, endangered federal clearances, and showed no remorse. The court sentences you to 9 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. You will pay restitution of $410,000 and are prohibited from financial employment for 10 years following release. The gavel hits wood like a full stop at the end of a life. Caroline finally looks at me, eyes wide, disbelieving. There's no anger in them, just confusion, as if she's still waiting for me to save her, to play my old role, the sister who cleans up her messes quietly. I hold her gaze for one breath, then look away. Because mercy, I've learned, isn't always kindness. After the hearing, I drive to my parents' house. The irony is not lost on me. The same cherrywood dining table where Caroline once bragged about her funny story is now covered in fraud alert forms. My mother sits across from me, eyes swollen, pen trembling. My father hovers by the window, hands stuffed into his pockets. I point to the forms. These will lock your credit reports. Fraud lines will be removed in 45 to 60 days. Call the bureaus if you get new alerts. Mom nods without looking at me. You're so calm, she says finally, voice small. It's my job, I say. We failed you, she whispers. All of us. I don't answer. There's no point correcting something that's already true. Dad turns from the window. They said she used our names too. She did, I confirm. He looks at me for a long time. We always thought quiet meant weak. He swallows. Turns out it meant disciplined. I sign the last form. Discipline's underrated, I say. They thank me when I leave, though the word feels hollow. Guilt always sounds polite when it's new. In the car, the night is cold and clean. I glance at the courthouse envelope on the passenger seat, the one with the seal of the U.S. Attorney's Office, confirming full restitution. A formality, but a satisfying one. For a moment, I think about Caroline in her new uniform, khaki instead of couture, learning that consequences don't bend to charm. I start the engine. The headlights cut through the dark. For years, I thought justice needed noise, courtroom speeches, apologies, catharsis. But watching the road unspool before me, I realized something simpler. Justice doesn't shout. It signs paperwork. 2 months after sentencing, life slips back into its quiet rhythm. The hum of printers, the click of pens, the endless parade of compliance forms that never stop multiplying. In my world, routine isn't boring. It's stability. It's the sound of things being right. Caroline is now inmate number 41273-019 at the Alderson Federal Correctional Institution. She has a release date that sits 9 years away, printed on a line that no amount of charm can erase. Mom visits her once a month. Dad goes sometimes. I don't. When they call afterward, their voices sound small, like people trying to speak through glass. She's different, Mom says one night. Quiet. I don't say what we're both thinking, that Caroline's learning the difference between silence and reflection. Deputy Director Green calls me into her office one morning. She doesn't do small talk, which is why I like her. Reynolds, she says, sliding a folder across her desk, you've been selected to head the new National Anti-Fraud Task Force. I blink once. Lead? Effective immediately. She leans back, studying me. Your work on the Reynolds case was exemplary, ethical, methodical. You've set a precedent. I open the folder. My name sits under the heading Lead Investigator, Identity Integrity Division, National Scope, Interagency Coordination, authority I never asked for but earned anyway. Green's mouth tilts in something almost like a smile. Sometimes discipline is louder than ambition, she says. I nod. Thank you, ma'am. When I step back into the hallway, it feels different, brighter, quieter, heavier, all at once. I think about how many times Caroline laughed at this job, how many times my parents called it safe. Turns out, Safety was where power lived all along. A week later, a white envelope arrives from a law firm in Arlington, my parents' estate attorney. Inside, legal pages rustle like confessions. The trust has been amended. Caroline removed as executor and beneficiary. A no contest clause added. I scan the document, initial where needed, and slide it back into the return envelope. No triumph, just closure. Neat, efficient, notarized. That evening, I stopped by my parents' house to drop off some tax forms they'd asked me to help with. It looks the same as always. The porch light a little too bright, the air heavy with Mom's favorite perfume. Dad walks me to the driveway when I leave. He stands beside my car, keys in hand, as if he's rehearsing something. He stops, tries again. We thought quiet meant weak, he exhales. Turns out it meant disciplined. I nod. Maybe now you understand the difference. He looks older than I remember, his voice thinner. We do. For 32 years, I've waited for that acknowledgement, for them to finally see me. Now that it's here, it feels small, like a receipt printed after the purchase, not worth framing. I unlock the car door. Take care of yourselves, I say. They both nod, relief and regret tangled in the same breath. As I drive away, I glance at the rearview mirror. The porch light glows faint behind me, a small circle of warmth trying to reach through the dark. For the first time, I realize I don't need it. My Subaru hums steady down the quiet streets of Alexandria. I like that it's unremarkable. 10 years old, reliable, paid off. No Range Rover, no vanity, no debt. Just motion I can trust. The radio stays off. The silence feels earned. Streetlights streak across the windshield like faint bars of gold. Somewhere, someone else is learning what Caroline never did. That control isn't taken. It's built, brick by careful brick, in spaces where no one thinks to look. By the time I pull into my apartment complex, the sky is fading to a soft violet. I sit there for a moment, engine still running, headlights cutting through the mist. For years, they called me the quiet one with the safe little government job. Now that quiet has a title, a task force, and federal jurisdiction. I turn off the ignition. The car falls silent. My reflection stares back from the windshield, steady, unflinching, exactly who I chose to become. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it files forms, collects receipts, and waits. Sometimes it's the sound of a door closing gently instead of slamming. And sometimes the greatest freedom comes not from being seen, but from no longer needing to be.